Music. It is said to be the universal language, the medium that transcends culture, race, and time, an act of expression and worship. But just like anything else, music can be used for good or evil. Rock, rap, salsa, jazz, reggae, and others are classified as secular music. Yet, today, these genres of music are influencing Christian and gospel songs, and the distinction between them is blurred. Is it okay to bring secular styles of music into sacred spaces? Can one claim to be a born-again Christian and yet not renounce the world? Does the type of music you listen to signify which God you worship? Where did this controversy all begin, and how will it end?
I want Jesus.
We sat down with jazz educator Professor Donald Brown to hear more on the subject.
Do you think that music has an effect on people's minds, either negative or positive, depending on the type of music you listen to?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, you know, I always say for the most part music is innocent and it's not really any bad music. I think when music kind of takes on a personality, it's when you put words to it. So you know, it's something, because my kids, especially the three older sons, they grew up listening to rhythm and blues music because that's what I had around the house, but they were into rap music, and I was just counting the days till they got out of it. It was driving me nuts. Between them wearing the box haircuts but you know, they're all great kids, but still, I can still see some of the negative impact that the music had on them, but especially some of their friends, you know, who maybe wasn't as fortunate to have both parents there, and comparing notes with and some of my colleagues here, but especially in the jazz world and the music world in general. A lot of them have the same story, that, you know, they were traveling and their kids was in the hip hop and you know, that's some good hip hop rap music, but then there was that element that made kids, you know, have disrespect for the authorities, for their parents, you know, disrespect women and so on. And so that part of it I can't get to.
To get a musician's take on how music affects the brain, we sat down with a well-known Christian artist and singing evangelist, Neville Peter.
Don't be dismayed, just look up, my friends.
What type of effect does music have on our brain, either positive or negative?
Well, music is definitely a vehicle that people use to garner a response from the listener. People who do film scores know what kind of music to write for the orchestra to get a response from the person watching the movie, whether it's that they want them to be afraid, or they want them to feel romantic, or they want them, you know, to have, you know, feelings of exuberance. One of the things that we can say from the very beginning is that could be good or bad. Mm-hmm. That could definitely be good or bad, because if the person who's writing the music is a spiritual person and has the glory of God in mind, then they are going to write the music to garner that kind of response from the listener. But if the person, you know, has ulterior motives, you know, then they'll write the music to garner that kind of response. And people who do music for commercials know this very well.
Music has a strong impact on our brain. It affects the emotional regions of our brain, influencing the way we think, feel, and act. Research shows that the type of music determines whether your brain is positively or negatively affected. In one study, 3 groups of mice were exposed to 3 different conditions for 8 weeks. One group heard rock-like disharmonic drum beats, another group heard classical music, and the third group heard no music at all. The mice were put in a maze course and had to locate their food, and by the end of the study, researchers found that the groups with the classical music and no music were able to find their food more efficiently. However, the group exposed to rock-like music took a long time to find their food and were often disoriented when navigating through the maze.
Brain examinations showed that the rock group had abnormal nerve cell growth in the hippocampus, the region responsible for learning, memory, and awareness. Even after 3 weeks of no exposure to the music, the rock group had retained far less than the other 2 groups. The nature of the rock music literally hindered the mice from learning and remembering. If this was the case in mice, how much more in humans who listen to music more often than the mice in this experiment?
As seen in this study, it was the rhythm of the music that impacted the brain, the frontal lobe. Also known as the judgment seat, the frontal lobe is responsible for our intellectual reasoning, decision-making, and our will. On a cellular level, our bodies function by a natural biological rhythm. So when the music has an unnatural rhythm, it disrupts the synchronization of our brain cells and leads to detrimental effects. Music, like rock, that clash with the harmony of our bodies, impairs learning, inhibits memory, and can even change the physical structure of the frontal lobe. Closely connected to your personality, the frontal lobe plays a key part in making you who you are.
We spoke with Greg Jenkins, the pianist and worship leader at Trinity Baptist Church, and a former contestant of the popular TV show, The Voice.
Do you believe that music has an effect on the mind as far as your outlook on life or even how you treat others? Well, what are your thoughts?
I do. I think it's not necessarily even the music. I think it's the spirit behind the music. As when you kind of study and look into music, music is one of the few things that can penetrate both sides of the brain. So it's like, I used to always tell, I was at a church and I would tell my pastor before, you know, I have to be careful when I'm playing because I can play a spirit in that you can't pray out. The only way that it can be cast out is through music. And sometimes churches, some pastors don't believe that. And that's fine, that's cool. But when you really study the word, the Bible says that when Saul actually didn't do what God said to do, an evil spirit overtook him. And the only way he can really get a calming or get a soothing was for David to come and play. So music has its effects in every aspect of life if we think about it.
Brian G., a basketball coach and entrepreneur, sat down with us to give us his insight on music.
Just based on your personal experience growing up over the years, what impact has music had on you?
Wow, music has had a huge impact, and people don't understand the power of music, the power that it has over your thoughts, your subconscious mind. I mean, I used to look up stuff and read about stuff like this because my parents used to tell me I couldn't listen to certain music, and I'd be like, why? It's just music. But it's not just music. I mean, when you listen to that type of stuff and you're taking that in, it's in you. It's in your heart, and sometimes it can affect you when you don't even realize it. So it has a great effect on the way you think, the way you react to stuff when you're not even thinking. I mean, your subconscious mind. So I know for me, I found myself thinking some things that totally contradicted my faith.
Wow.
And I drew it back to some of the shows I've watched, just, you know, television. And then it was music. Music has the power to make you feel hungry, make you feel tired, make you feel sleepy, happy.
Yeah.
I mean, so music has a great deal of influence on people. I don't think people talk about it enough.
The Bible confirms this point in 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 18, that what we behold, we will be changed by it. This principle also applies to music. What you listen to will have an impact on the way you think and act.
If one listens to the wrong kind of music, he will become the wrong kind of person. But conversely, if he listens to the right kind of music, he will tend to become the right kind of person. Jeffrey Scott, a professional barber at Gims Hair Fashions and a devout Christian, weighed in on the issue.
Take us to the times where you didn't listen to gospel music, and how did that music affected you?
Like I said, growing up, listened to a lot of also hip hop, R&B. I mean, the hip hop, rap music and stuff like that, man. So I used to be a big fan of the old school hip hop and rap and stuff like that, man. And it used to just take me there. Some of the music was kind of forceful. It made me get into a violent state. I wanted to do something to somebody based on the music, stuff like that, man. And then, you know, you ride with your girlfriend or your fiance or your significant other, you like to listen to some slow jam, stuff like that, so it puts you in a more subtle, sedated mood.
Now, tell me, from your perspective, because you're a musician, why do you think that there is a blurring of the lines between secular music and Christian or gospel music today?
I believe there's a blurring of the lines simply because there are several reasons. I was just going to, give an easy nutshell answer, but there are several reasons I believe. The first reason I believe is that the enemy of souls, the devil, knows that his time is short, and he is doing everything in his power to make the truth look cloudy to those who are not seeking it with their whole hearts. Many people who say that they are Christians are not in the Word of God. And when you are in the Word of God, you immediately receive discernment. And many Christians today lack discernment. So just because something says Jesus, they'll assume that it's cool.
When you think of gospel, it's something pure, right? Do you think there's a fine line that is now being crossed by certain artists, by certain industries, as it relates to tainting gospel music? And what I mean by that, before you answer me, what I mean by that is that there have been certain artists who have been playing secular music, playing rap, hip hop, and they're bringing that style of music. They're bringing their lyrics, they're bringing their beats, and they're blending it with gospel type music and calling that gospel rap or gospel rock, gospel classical music, whatever you want to call it. Now, do you see an issue with that, or do you think that music is transcendent?
Well, I used to have a problem with that. Like, I got students here, mostly white students, that some of them are into Christian rock music. I've heard some of that music, and that was, it's loud, and I'm thinking, man, who can get to that? Who can even get the message? But then, when you see some of the concerts and how big it is, you realize that music is brings some people to God.
If you sing a certain way, you're a gospel singer. If you don't sing that way, you're not a gospel singer, and you're not anointed. And I don't know where it's derived from, because in the older days, in the early days, you heard a lot of ballad. I say gospel ballads like Mahalia Jackson's. It was no beats. It was just like hymns, just singing. And then all of a sudden you had Walter Hawkins, them come, and they brought a different groove, different drum beat. And then for a while people says, no, That's not, no, get that out the church. That's worldly music, because it was just something different. Then after a while, you had the Kirk Franklins come and was like, I'm gonna mix the two. I always tell the story.
What do you mean, I'm gonna mix the two? What two are you referring to? The hymns and the...
Yeah, he was basically saying, I'm gonna take what my grandmother loved, and I'm gonna take what I loved, and I'm gonna form this medium to where I can reach everybody. Now, I don't know what his motive was behind it, whether it was to make money or whether it really was to bring the body together. But when he did that, I believe in some ways, at a point of time, I believe Kirk Franklin really regretted what he did. I believe he opened up the door for people that probably really didn't want to live it to come in and take advantage of the opportunity that was given.
Well, to better understand how gospel music became influenced by secular styles of music, we have to look back in history at a man named Thomas Dorsey.
We affectionately refer to him as the godfather of gospel because he sophisticated the call and response technique which came via the oral tradition from West Africa, and he introduced the so-called jazz cadences and rhythms of popular music into the gospel idiom. What he did when he created the form we know as gospel, he put the music of faith into the common idiom of the people.
Let's go. Gracious Lord, I love your name. When I look back from whence I came, sometimes stumbling, sometimes falling, sometimes alone.
A 1994 Score magazine article entitled "The Father of Gospel Music" quoted Dorsey as saying, "When I realized how hard some folks were fighting the gospel idea, I was determined to carry the banner." Carry it, he did.
With pioneer singers such as Sally Martin and Mother Willie Mayford Smith propagating his music, he, Thomas Dorsey, stayed the course long enough to write over 800 songs and hear his music ascend from the first row pews to the choir stand, where it previously had been banned. Other composers, such as Lucy Campbell and Dr. Herbert Brewster, picked up the torch, and the way was lit for another generation to take control. To ensure this, Dorsey founded the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses in 1932, an organization still in existence today. The fruits of that harvest were the exceptional singers who spread gospel around the country and indeed the world in the years that followed. Mahalia Jackson and James Cleveland are but a few.
How do you feel about secular artists now making gospel or Christian music? Snoop Dogg, for example, he actually made a gospel album. How do you feel about?
How do I feel about that? I think it's pernicious in retrospect because I think the intent behind it. He's trying to tap into a whole nother genre of music, tap into a whole nother a melting pot of money. He want to jump on that bandwagon and get the Christian folk, quote unquote, and get some money off them. and say, look at me, I've changed. But the Bible says, when I was a child, I spake as a child. Behold, all things become new. Now that I'm a man, I start to think different. So you shall judge a person by the fruit that they bear. So just because you say God and say Lord, Lord, doesn't mean you're going to make it to heaven. Because you make a gospel album doesn't make you a Christian.
But people don't understand that gangster rap come from gospel music.
Okay, now, hold on. Gangster rap comes from gospel music. Reverend Snoop, you got to break that down.
95% of the gangster rappers were born and raised in a church. And their first style of music that they heard or were introduced to was church music, was gospel music.
Wow.
That's their upbringing. That's why if you notice when every gangster rapper win an award, what's the first thing he say?
Yeah,
thank
I
God.
want to thank God.
He don't say thank the homies.
Yeah.
Thank the spot. Thank the man that showed me how to sell drugs. Thank the man that showed me how to shoot. No, I want to thank God.
When did you know you wanted to do this gospel album?
Well, my grandmother raised us in church. Despite the music that you heard from me in the beginning and all the things that I've done that may look, secular or different, my grandmother raised me with God and I took him everywhere I went. So when I was finally able to make a project where I didn't have no record label saying, hey, Snoop, you should do an album like this, or this would be a great move. I did this because I wanted to do it. And I reached out to all of the gospel artists, and they all said, we know your spirit, brother, so we're going to do it for you, and we don't want no money.
What?
Yes.
No money?
They did it out of love and spirit. I'm talking about the Clark sisters, Marvin Sapp, Ty Tribbett, you can go on and on, Charlie Wilson, all of them. The spirit of God was on this project. And when the project came out, it was #1 for 7 weeks. I never had any projects of mine #1 for longer than 1 week.
No way.
Never.
I didn't even know that.
So this was the spirit of God all over this project. So it is what it is. Right. So the play is an extension of the album, because once I did the album, a lot of people couldn't understand, well, how could he make a gospel album and he's still smoking and he doing this and doing this?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
But I'm gonna tell you this, how you gonna judge me?
Yeah, because what they doing?
It ain't about what they doing. How much work am I doing? How much ministry am I doing in the streets? How many people am I touching? How many lives am I saving? How many people am I bringing to the Spirit?
Yeah.
I'm doing more work than the preacher doing. Because the preacher just preaching on Sunday. I preach 7 days a week.
That's right. And you living your best life. Hello. That's #1 too for a whole bunch of weeks with Lil Duval, right?
Yeah, that's #1 too. How about that?
How about that?
I'm living my best life.
Now check this out. So I got a question. So Snoop, I got the album, I listened to it, but I'm gonna tell you, I have a Pavlovian response to Snoop Dogg music. Brother, when I hear your music, I feel like, my audience might not want to hear this. My friend of mine feels like every time he hears a Snoop record, he just feels like he wants to grab something, roll something up. Can I roll up, smoke, and listen to the gospel album at the same time?
You can do what you like. Who's to tell you that you can't?
All right.
Who can judge you? If your spirit is right, you can do what you want to do. The Bible tell you to have a sip of wine and this and that, but that do more damage to you than anything. I see people in car accidents, fights, domestic disputes, but when they hit that do it, Floyd, you're gonna relax, lay back, get you something to eat, and you're gonna make it to see tomorrow.
So then why did it not ever move from that to like trying to be that dude that would like spit for God? Like was it?
You know what I believe that my calling was to go minister to the streets first, and then get to people, and then tell them about God's word once I get their attention.
So, Jensen, tell us, where did this whole controversy over music begin?
I mean, this is very interesting. We have to go back to the beginning in order for us to know where we are now. This controversy over worship, this controversy over music actually began in heaven.
And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
How is it that these secular artists, right, these secular artists can make gospel music and be accepted in the church without having to change any of their ways?
Because the church has begun to compromise. They want to make friends with the world. They've become gospel celebrity, church celebrities. Remember, we had an interview before. We talked about it at the house, and the pastor said that perfume and cologne is good to smell, but it's lethal to inject. Right. So when you begin to taste the cologne, the smell of your own self, then it becomes lethal. So you just want to be just like the world. You want to be friends with the world so that you can be famous, to feed some type of insecurity within yourself.
Just the other day also, I was watching a YouTube video, and very prominent gospel artist Ty Tribbett. Many people are very familiar with him. He was on stage as well, dancing with his choir. With Jamie Foxx, and I think some other rapper, some other artist was on there as well, sharing the same stage. One is supposedly Christian gospel, and the other is secular. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, as I said before, it's very confusing. The lines are being blurred of what is holy, what is not holy, as we see these artists who are very influential. They have large audiences, young people as well, and these young people growing up in the church look on that and say, well, if that's happening, these big celebrities and they have clout, I see nothing wrong with that. There's no issue with that. And they grow up with that mindset and that mentality, and when it's, when you go and speak to them and you say that's not wrong, they rebuke you, because they're programmed to think that that kind of music is normal because they see the celebrities, they see their idols, as it were, doing it.
There are a few reasons why secular artists are able to make music for the church without changing their ways. And one of the reasons is because pastors and so-called gospel artists are actually paving the way for these secular artists to come into the church. And the pastors and the gospel artists, they are not making a distinction between the holy and the profane.
I want to say something publicly, and I don't know if I'm really correct in saying this, and I want to say something publicly. Recently, a man in California, he's a rapper. In fact, he's known as a legend. They call him, I think his nickname is Snoop Dogg. And he just released a gospel album, and to minister to people, because his grandmama ministered to him, and he had it on the inside of him. And isn't it sad that he received rejection and flack, and how y'all gonna support somebody like this after what they did and what they said? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? Somebody, I don't know, I might give him a call. Somebody should have said, congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for releasing something that can minister to people and encourage people and help people out. We were so busy trying to dig up his past that we couldn't see that the working of the Holy Ghost on the inside. What's the matter with us? Now you got to go through your checklist. I don't know if you're saved enough. I don't know if you've been saved long enough. And I just showed you a dude who just believed, and he went, and now you want to be the Holy Ghost police to decide if somebody has done enough to be respected as a child of God. Y'all need to stop.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? Last week somebody told me, how dare you make a positive reference to that rapper Nipsey Hussle? Didn't you listen to his music? Pastor, I know he did great works, but he cussed. How dare you say something positive? He cussed. I cussed.
You have millions of followers. You could have had anybody. I mean, you could have had Brian Gumbel in this chair. You probably could have had President Barack in this chair. You could have had Queen Oprah in this chair. But I chose who? That's what the people want to know. Yeah. They want to know why, out of all the people that you could have done this that would have been honored, as I am, to be able to sit and have constructive, healthy, good dialogue with. A little short gospel brother from Fort Worth, Texas, from the dirty. Why would you want me to come out and have an opportunity that people would stand in line to have?
I think because me and you mirror each other. I believe that our lives are parallel. I believe we come from the same cloth. I believe that we were raised the same way. I believe that we have a story that's similar.
But I was in church as a kid, but my influence was hip hop. Like my influence was Diggable Planets, or was Eric B. and Rakim, or Big Daddy Kane.
Real hip hop.
Real hip hop. And then in the 90s, you know, because I'm from Texas, it was the Ghetto Boys. And then there was a CD that I got, and it was a dog house. And it was like a dog with some hips.
Oh, okay, you talking about Doggy Style?
Yeah, by somebody. What was his name?
Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Yeah.
You ought to check him out. He's not bad. He has some nice songs.
He do?
Like, nice guy.
I heard of him.
You heard of him?
I'm gonna check him out, see what he's working with.
We also see that various forms of music are just blending. The secular, the Christian, the gospel, all of these are blending, and many so-called Christians have actually accepted this blending of these styles. So what is your take on that?
Well, I can relate. I can relate. As I recall my transition from the world to Christianity, I was also met with this fork in the road. One of the genres of music that I was heavily influenced by, heavily involved in, was rock music, heavy rock music. So going from heavy rock music to hymnals was no easy thing. You can see there's quite a contrast. But in that transition, I found Christian rock, and it was extremely convenient for me to let go of the just vulgar words, vulgar lyrics, and just embrace Christian rock, because it's still the same rhythm, the same elements, just changing up the words. But for me, I'm like, hey, I didn't really listen to the words to begin with. I just liked the beats. And so at the time, it was convenient. I thought it was, if this is Christianity, this is easy. But strangely enough, though I had very little understanding of the scriptures, very little for me to go back and reference, God had impressed upon my mind a true image of who Christ is. And even at that time, as immature as I was mentally regarding Christ and the Word, at that time I knew that the Christ that these rock artists were depicting was not the Christ that God was convicting me of. And so I was impressed that I had to make a full renunciation of the world. So I praise God for that conviction. And as I grew in the faith, as I continue to study, I'm even more convinced that God Himself was the one convicting me of that error that I found myself in, of listening to Christian rock.
So Jared, the Bible talks about the mixing of the holy with the profane. Can you expound on this?
Yes, so the Bible shows us that in Leviticus chapter 10, Ezekiel 22, and Ezekiel 44, there should be a distinction between the holy and the profane. And when we use simple logic, it makes sense. If you have dirty dishes, you wouldn't put those inside the cabinet with the clean dishes, right? Neither would you put your dirty clothes with the clean clothes. And so in the spiritual realm, it is also true that light and darkness, the things of Christ and the things of Satan, cannot commingle. Brian, so in Ezekiel 44 and verse number 23, it says, "And they shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane, and cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean."
That's awesome.
So that verse right there is, speaking about those in leadership, pastors, anyone who claims to be a Christian, are to teach others the difference between the holy and unholy, the holy and the profane, the clean and the unclean. So in this realm of gospel music or Christian and secular music, why do you think that in a lot of churches, this secular style of music is being brought in, as opposed to ministers teaching the members to discern between what is holy and what is not?
There we go. See, now this is a different question. Now we get into the root of it. So yeah, that's on them to teach them to discern. I do think, you know, like I said earlier, I think it's about business. I mean,
even for the pastors.
Yeah, everybody, you got to eat some way. So, and of course we rely on the Lord to, you know, provide for all of our needs. But I think just being any smart capitalist would know that if everybody likes this, why would I make this? I would make this so I could turn the best profit. And I'm talking about just gospel singers, you know, adopting the hip hop sound. I'm not talking about what Kanye West is doing and that was something different. I can't speak on how Kanye West is living, if he's really born again or not. I can't speak on that.
Kanye West decided to take him to church.
If you come to give God glory today, make some noise. Hey, hey, let's go, let's go.
Now, I'm going to play a few songs. Some you may be aware of, some you may not be aware of. But I'm going to ask you a few questions after listening to the song or hearing the song. So let me get right into it here. So what song is that?
That is California by Tupac and Dre.
Okay, California by Tupac. Okay. Now I'm going to play another song. So you've heard California Love. Right. Now you've heard the second song. Is there any difference between the two?
Only that they're switching up the lyrics.
Okay.
That's the only thing.
So essentially you're saying that it's the same what?
It's the same spirit behind it.
Okay.
So if you hear that bass line, you hear that music, you're going to sing California. You're not going to sing what they're singing.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to play another song for you here.
When we hooked up, we sat down, made an agreement. We vowed that we'd always be together through whatever. We said that no one would ever get between us. This love will never, ever leave us. That was a while ago.
What is this song right here?
I don't know the name of the song, but I know it's Aaliyah.
Okay, Aaliyah.
I don't want to be alone.
I don't want to.
Okay, I don't want to. Okay.
Yes. So Aaliyah, you got it right. That's the artist. I don't want to. So now I'm going to play this next song right here.
And his love will never leave us. That was a while ago. But now lately, it seems like, we feel like the world forgot all about Christ. They turned their backs, can't get it right. We just want to go back to the basics, all the way back. Can we start again, do it over? Can we straighten it out? Gotta work it out. We don't want to live without you. We don't want to live without you. We don't want to go without you. We can't live without you.
Okay, so you see here the first song, of course, is Aaliyah.
Right.
So now you have the second set of song right here. My question for you concerning this song is, would you attend a church that plays this type of music? Why or why, and why, if yes, And if no, why not?
I probably wouldn't, simply because that song, it doesn't glorify God at all. Just because you change the lyrics to a song doesn't change the heart and the spirit of the song. And it's bypassing God, it's bypassing everything that God stands for. And I wouldn't purposely go to a church that plays it, but I have gone to churches that do. So.
Okay, so you have gone to church that do play that type of music.
Yes.
Now, how was the environment when you did attend that church?
So it was more so had a club feel to it, and it came to a point to where the women began to almost twerk.
Oh wow!
Because it was, like I said, the spirit of the song, the lyrics didn't change. In their mind, they're taking it back to the original, and so they almost twerked. So it's just a gigantic party, gigantic club, and people are not listening to. They're not listening to the lyrics. Not those. The lyrics has been changed. Just the original ones.
After the song is over with, I want to hear what the message is.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because this is why I say it. There's been some gospel patriarchs.
Yes.
That we would say are legends, but they were rapists. This is what people said. They raped women. One of the great gospel patriarchs was a molester. Songs that we still sing today that we say are great. A lot of the songs that we hear now, people will say, man, he's living a homosexual life, or they've gotten caught up in that. So my question is, because Kanye or whoever that is does a beat that says California Love, but he's attracted 2,500 people, that at the end of the day, if that word reaches 100 of them, was that what it's for? God doesn't change what he does, but God understands that everybody's not going to listen to something. So what you have to do sometimes is just get something to catch them. But then what is your motives, Kanye? Because like you said, Snoop did a gospel album, and the church beat Snoop down because we know Snoop. And I said this here, let's see what Snoop does after the gospel album. If he lives his life and he's living for Christ, is he wrong? But yeah, we saw what happened. Snoop still smoking weed, Snoop still chasing the women, still doing that. But Snoop would turn around and say, but how many preachers stand up on Sunday doing the same thing? Sleeping around in the church, drinking, smoking, cursing just as much as me, going to the weed man buying weed, but yet y'all still filling the church up and giving y'all money. That's where I'm at.
I see.
I'm still at the point of, let's find the spirit of it.
Now I hit the FBO with duffels in my hands. Woo. I did half a Zan, 13 hours till I land. Had me out like a light, 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 like a light.
Alright, so what song is this?
That is Travis Scott and Drake. Is that Sicko Mode?
Yep,
okay.
Sicko Mode.
Yeah.
Alright, so now you're familiar with the song. I'm going to play for you another song.
He's the light, hey, he's the light, he's lit, he's the light, he'll ride his stripes, pay the price for you and me, the victory is won, brighter than the sun, and his love is better sun, Jesus Christ, he's the light, hey, he's the light, he's lit, he's the light, he'll ride his stripes.
Alright, so what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's great how he tried to take a secular song and flip it into gospel. Me personally, I've always thought that was kind of corny how gospel would try to flip other stuff, like just do your thing. Like, I don't know, I thought that was corny, but you know, more power to you if you want to flip it. I mean, I understand it.
All right, so if you were in a crowd like this, right, where they're dancing and singing to this rendition of the song Sicko Mode, what song would be playing in your mind? Like when you hear that music?
Probably Sicko Mode.
Sicko Mode, right? Right. So, yeah, interesting.
Flashing Lights by Kanye West.
All right, so they're saying there, he's alive, he's alive. What are your thoughts on that song?
Like I said, I think it's corny because I like Kanye West, and Kanye West did that song and that was good. Flashing Lights was good. If you want to do a Christian song, then do a Christian song in and of yourself. So I don't really have a problem with him flipping it, making something secular into gospel, but I don't know. If you want to do gospel, just do gospel.
Right. So your take on it is, if you're going to do gospel, just be original with it. Don't necessarily change.
Because that's flashing lights, but you just changing the word.
Yeah, Kanye started this, I think, just to heal himself, and it was a really personal thing, and it was just friends and family. And he has had an amazing evolution of being born again.
What does it mean to be born again?
What it mean to me, to be born again is a total life change. Not a 360, but a 180. Total, complete life change, total and complete perspective. You need to change every aspect of who you are to live for God. As a matter of fact, you actually go and you have a funeral and die to self. And you don't even actually live for yourself anymore. You begin to live for God. His will is done in your life. He makes every move for you. The Holy Spirit guides you, and you just die to self and complete the mission that He has for you.
Be born again. What fellowship does light have with darkness? And I sit back and I listen to that. But then a lot of the people that are saying that is operating sometimes in darkness. They're saying one thing, but there's no pastor, if I'm honest. There's probably not one pastor that if Kanye West walked in their church wouldn't tell somebody to go live, get Kanye, and make sure they know Kanye is at their church. Now, we can sit up and talk about him. It reminds me of the movie All About the Benjamins. Ice Cube said, for the longest, we gonna get these diamonds and we turning them in, and that's it. But you know what he said when he got $20 million worth of diamonds? Whew, that changed everything, because now it's in my hand. So when I look at a lot of things, what fellowship does light have with darkness? But God says, I say there is a sense of a connection, because God said we're supposed to shine our light on the darkness. But if I'm in church and I'm letting somebody lead worship that I know is not even trying to be born again or saved, I know he's sleeping around. I know before he comes to church, he's getting high. Got 2 or 3 girls pregnant. I know this. Would you say that's born again?
You know, the devil presents so many flashy, shiny objects. I've seen everything that the devil could have showed you via TV, videos, car dealerships, jewelry, houses. I know we say, oh, this is the culture, that's the culture. To be radically in service to Christ is the only culture that I want to know about. In the 4 walls, out of the 4 walls, in the school halls.
Now, Neville, what are your thoughts on artists such as Kanye West, Snoop Dogg, and other secular artists who are now making gospel songs out of secular songs?
If that person has not changed the direction of their life, if that person has not repented and renounced the world, it would be no different than Judas betraying Jesus with a kiss, really.
As we pray, we declare the victory. As we pray,
as we lay, we forgot about tomorrow. As we lay, as we lay, didn't think about the price we'd have to pay. Oh no, 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 no.
Would you consider him a born-again Christian?
Man, that's I can't determine who's born again, who's not. I think that's great that he proclaimed that, and that's great that he's gonna, you know, change the way he does music, because I think his music, when he makes music, he has a lot of people listening. So if he's gonna be talking about Jesus and what he's done for him, I think that's great. I can't speak to where he's at. That's between him and, you know, the Lord. I mean, he could do all this stuff and be who knows behind closed doors. So, I mean, I believe him. I take him at his word. If that's what he says he is and that's the way he's going to try to live, then I'm going to encourage him.
So I say you have to change your mind, your spirit, the way you approach things, the way you see things. If it's changing your friends, if it's changing what you watch, if it's changing what you eat, if it's changing what you dress, because all this stuff carries spirits. That's what it takes to be born again.
I'm going to give you the exclusive. I've never had this conversation about my relationship with Kanye ever before. I'm about to give it to you because you are who you are.
Thank you, man.
Back in 2012, I just got this random call that Kanye wants to come to your house. And so it happened. The day after Thanksgiving, him, his pops, his cousins, some of his peoples, they pull up to the house. He came to chop it up with me. He said, yo, man, I really want to find a way to help the production value in gospel music. And I want to link up with you, man. And I want to bring what I have to the table to really have, and it's like, oh, you know, this is 2013 Kanye, you know what I'm saying? This is, you know, home run hitter Kanye, you know what I'm saying? Everything out the park is woo woo. And so we just started talking and we went to the studio and he started playing some joints. And bro, they were fire. I ain't gonna lie.
Of course they were.
Yeah. You know, and so we were having this conversation and he was talking about doing like a smash record between me and him, boom, boom, boom. And as I began to talk to him, I said to him, you know what? I don't know right now if it's the time for our communities to try to come together right now, because I don't want you getting a lot of slack, you know, for trying to be, you know, this person, because you still may be on your journey. And while you're on your journey, you don't want to make this declaration that you're doing gospel music, because then people are going to be expecting.
They're going to judge you.
They're going to judge you, and they're going to put all these other expectations on you, which is not fair to you. And his response to me was, he said, you know what? I don't want to, yo, man, I'm telling you, he was mad humble, mad kind guy.
Always is.
Yeah, man, mad kind guy. He said to me, you know what? I don't want to offend anybody, and I don't want to knock anybody off what they think or feel. He says to me, what if I give you my beats? Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard me. I did that pause was on purpose. Kanye West said, what if I just give you my beats and all you got to do is just pay my engineer? I said to him, to take your music and not give you credit, I'll be doing the same thing that I'm saying that I don't want the church to do to you. I'm saying that your music is good enough, but you're not. So we're not gonna do that either. Because that would have been wrong to his spirit as well. Let's just build a relationship, because that way I was hoping that maybe I could be that flashlight, right? You dig? So just throughout the years, from 2012, 13, on the low, me and Kanye had been building. For 4 years, nobody knew. I wasn't posting no pics. I wasn't just on the low, because that's what you're supposed to do. You know, everything ain't for the gram. We just building, bro. We just building.
Now, when you try to introduce the gospel in a rap form, in a salsa form, in a rock form, you are now bringing God down to your level rather than us rising up to God's level. So when we hear this music, we think, oh, God must have the same sense of humor that I do. God must have the same desires and aspirations that I do. As I hear this music, it makes me feel this way. Therefore, God must be this same way. He must be just like me. And that's a dangerous position to be in. We cannot bring God down to our level. We have to come up higher and meet God where He is.
Now, Kanye West was all over the place this weekend. He's releasing a new album, I believe this week. It's called Jesus is King.
I thought that he pushed it back.
Nah, it was supposed to release on Friday, and they're saying they're trying to get it out this week.
Yeah, I thought he said he was going to put it out on Sunday. It was supposed to come out on Friday.
It was supposed to come out on Friday.
And he said he was pushing it back, and then he said
last
drop
Friday.
It on Sunday.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out
this past Friday.
Yeah, this past Friday. Yeah, so it's supposed to come out this week, they say. But we don't know. We're not sure as of yet. But Friday, he was out in Detroit, and he played snippets of the album. People that was at the venue, they got free tickets. They said that it's a lot of gospel, sounds very gospel. He's rarely rapping on a lot of the songs, and they said it sounds pretty good. Now, Kanye also said that he's not doing any secular music anymore. It's all gospel from here on out.
What exactly is secular music? When people say they're not doing secular music, can somebody from the gospel community explain to me what secular music is exactly? Because I use that term a lot, but I wonder what that actually means. Let me see. Secular music is simply music that is not affiliated with any religious practice or tradition. So a song like back in the day, Inspector Deck, The Power of God in You. Would that be considered a gospel record because he's rapping about God? No.
No.
So I don't understand what the secular music thing means.
I don't know. That's a good question. That is a great question.
Well, General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints isn't the only big event going on in downtown Salt Lake City this weekend. Kanye West is performing tomorrow at the Gateway.
Less than 24 hours, that's all the notice Kanye West gave fans here in Utah to come see his Sunday service concert at the Gateway in Salt Lake City. The ticket price, $0.
Fox 13's Sydney Glenn shows us this impromptu concert brought out thousands of maybe overly enthusiastic fans, right, Sydney?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. This concert is supposed to be basically a church service on a Saturday, but when you add in one of the biggest names in music and you let people in for free, well, come on, no surprise, it got a little chaotic.
Like so many people, it's like apocalypse, like it was crazy.
Kanye West fans filled every open space at the Gateway and then some.
So many people were pushing me around, my feet weren't even on the ground.
Everyone's searching for that perfect view Saturday afternoon.
The roofs, climbing on light poles, like there was at one point, there was like 3 people on their shoulders.
Fans doing whatever it takes to get a glimpse of the superstar.
We sprinted and then we just finessed our way to the front.
All for this.
I know Jesus.
Even I was excited about this footage.
How neat. Was this like one of the coolest days of literally the best day of my life.
It wasn't all about being starstruck, though.
This isn't about Kanye. This is about God.
And that is exactly what this Sunday service concert is all about.
Like, I left inspired, and so it's cool that it was just church on a Saturday.
During a faith-filled weekend in Utah, Kanye West, of all people, had many feeling closer to God.
It's not just a publicity stunt. I thought it was at first, but you can feel it, you know? I haven't felt that in 20 years.
God has warned us that in these last days, it will be hard to distinguish the true followers of God from those who follow him not. And it will also be the same in the realm of music. And one of the reasons that is because music is going to be used as a medium to deceive people into false worship. So take the account of Mount Sinai, for example, in Exodus chapter 32. The children of Israel were worshiping a golden calf, music was being played. And when Moses and Joshua were descending from the mountain, Joshua said, it sounds like the sound of war. He thought it was war that was going on in the camp, but it was the music. And connected with the music, what was taking place? Worshipping a golden idol. The people were naked. They were given up to sensual lust. And so it will be also in these last days. Music will lead people into false worship. In Daniel chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar built a statue, and he commanded everyone, all of the nations, to come and to worship it. And he said that when you hear the sound of the music, fall down and worship it. So we see that in Babylon, ancient Babylon, music was used as a tool to deceive people into worshiping falsely. But not everyone bowed down. There were 3 Hebrew boys who stood true to their allegiance to God, and they did not bow down and worship. But we see that just as it was in ancient Babylon, so it will be in these last days. Satan will again use music as a medium to deceive people, not to worship Jesus Christ, but rather to worship the image that Satan himself will set up. And so, this is the great controversy. And what we have to understand is the choice is ours to make. Who will we worship? Will we worship Christ or Satan? Will we stand faithful like the 3 Hebrew boys? The choice is ours. All right, last question for you, Nabil. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling with listening to secular music, or even who is struggling with listening to gospel songs which sound just like secular songs? What would you tell them?
My advice to that person would be to get in the Word of God. My advice to that person would be to have an active prayer life, to seek to know the will of God with sincerity of heart. If you're struggling with it, you can ask for strength. If it's a real problem, then you can fast and pray about it. I was going to say you can throw away your records, but now I guess I'm dating myself. People stream now. You can cancel your subscription to Spotify or Apple Play until you feel that God has settled this issue in your heart.
So what advice would you give to these individuals who are either struggling with listening to secular music or gospel music that has been mixed with secular music?
What advice? That's a good question. I wish I had somebody giving me advice when I was dealing with the same thing. But what I found out later in life through my experience and through just looking at the Word of God and what His Word had to say about what was holy and what was not holy is that if you're going to try to take something out of your life, you have to fill it with something else, right? If you take something bad out, you have to fill it with something good, and that's the process I had to learn the hard way, because even today it's still I wouldn't say a struggle, but a temptation still, because when you grow up with that, it becomes part of your DNA, and only God can undo that, right? So in order to overcome that struggle, that weakness, that temptation, which we all have, because music is the universal language, right? So everyone's going to be exposed to it, whether good or bad, at some point in their life. So you have to fill that void with something that which is good, right? And of course you have to recognize that you cannot do that in your own strength. You cannot do that in your own power. We don't even have the desire to do that. We have to ask God for the desire first in order to overcome that temptation.
Music was the biggest factor in my life, I guess you could say. So for me to be able to take my thought process of all of the music that I love and to say, this is no longer pleasing to God, I just have to throw it away. It was a struggle, I'm not going to lie. It was very difficult to overcome, because everyone knows that as you're going about your day, a little song will come into your head, and then you think for a second, wait, hold on, I'm a Christian now. That is not acceptable to God. I have to push that out of the way. Now, one thing that I would say to someone is to pray and fast about it, because honestly, the most difficult sins are the ones that have been rooted in you since your birth. And I can definitely say that, you know, growing up, all throughout the household, there was always music. And just at any point in time, there would always be some type of tune in my mind. And I also love to sing, so of course I'm singing all the time, and I'm singing all this type of music, and I wasn't very picky with my choice of songs. The only thing that I didn't do was Screamo, but every other song, you name it, I probably heard it. And the thing is, with that, it's very difficult to be able to overcome. However, although it's a difficult battle, it doesn't mean that you're not able to get the victory.
I want to be honest, and I want to say that it is not easy to just cut music out of your mind, because it's so you know, it runs deep, you know. So it takes a lot of prayer, and it takes a lot of you know, asking God to change in that prayer. You're asking God to change your taste buds for certain types of music. So for me, like I used to know when every I won't name the artist, but you know, some of the gospel artists, I would know when every new song comes on the line, every new hit, you know, I would be so you know, just engrossed in that culture. And gradually, because I've been praying, Lord, you have to change my appetite, because you know, that's where my mind is, that's where my heart, that's when my, you know, my heart beats to that kind of music. God had to really change my taste buds with that. And now I see myself singing more hymns, you know, enjoying a lot of a cappella. And nothing is wrong with instruments. I love the piano. It's my favorite instrument. I love the guitar. We have one there. You know, I love, you know, the sound of music. However, if it's tailored the right way, I'll just say that. But it takes prayer. It takes prayer, because that is something that we're inclined to. Music is, as they say, universal, and we're so inclined to hearing a certain rhythm, and our bodies just respond. Sometimes you could be listening to music or not even paying attention, and then all you know is that, you know, your head just start moving, or you know, your leg just start, you got to hold your leg down, you know. It's just something that you really got to pray and ask God, help me to be, you know, knowledgeable, help me to be cognizant of what I'm listening, what's going into my ears, and help me to change my taste buds so that I'm not so succumbed and so weak to just the impulse of when I hear music, I have to move. Yeah.